Study done by SchoolNet South Africa, or SNSA, has found that the introduction and integration of digital tools in the classroom have proven to improve the literacy levels among children. This follows the shocking report of the Progress and International Reading Literacy Study in 2017 that stated that at least 78% of grade 4 learners in South Africa could not read properly. According to SNSA, the solution to the foundation phase reading crisis is technology. Well, Omashni Naidu, Operations Manager at SchoolNet, joins us now in studio to tell us more. Omashni, welcome to Morning Live. It's a great pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Paul.
Now let's talk about the research study called Learning Gains Through Play, or LGP. What does it all mean and what does it entail?
Okay, this was a project that was funded by the DG Money Trust, and the whole point of the project was to test whether there were any foundational literacy gains through technology-based learning as well as game-based activity, so learner-centered activity. It was a project that was involved 10 schools, 5 in KZN and 5 in Western Cape. And the point was that we put in Xbox Connect game-based consoles with games sponsored by Microsoft. We put in tablets for teachers, and then based on the activities we then put in a trolley of devices for the learners. But the whole focus was around teacher professional development and trying to understand how teachers can use technology in creative ways along with carefully selected apps and games for foundation phase learning. And the whole point was to try and then see whether there were any gains of any, because foundational literacies are basically what sets up any of our students for all of their learning throughout their schooling career.
Indeed. How does the integration and introduction of technology in the classroom improve not only the literacy levels but the speech and understanding of the learners as well?
Okay, so the Xbox Connect was put in with the games, and the whole point there was that the learners were able to shout using English, which is a second language to many of the students that are in the school. Well, actually the majority of the schools that we worked in. And second language acquisition needs to be sort of subconsciously learned, because home language is what the child is knowing on a daily basis, both at school as well as at home, whereas English is second nature. And therefore, when we put in these games, which were all English based, we were trying to see, is there any learning that happens? And we found that actually speech recognition, because the kids had to understand the instructions that were sort of on the screen, they had to then shout out in English. And as a result of that, both speech through recognition of the sounds, through recognition of pronunciation, as well as, just uttering the instructions themselves.
And have you found that there's been an improvement in terms of understanding? Because while some learners may learn how to read, they don't necessarily understand what they're reading.
Okay, well, you got to understand how language is acquired. So we've got 4 or 5 levels of language acquisition. So at the first stage, you've got oral, so silent stage, and we progress from level 1 to a level 4. And when we talk about foundation phase learning, we're talking about language acquisition where you move from stage 1 to a stage 4 at least. So then when it comes to grade 4, you're then switching over, code switching to English as the language of teaching and learning. So when a child first starts school, you're at stage 1, and at the very beginning, you're able to utter, so oral, learning, and then you moving. So through integration of apps and games and carefully selected elements around fine motor, gross motor skills, visual literacies, are you able to pick out the odd one out? Are you able to differentiate? So those kind of cognitive sort of development skills were carefully thought out through the teacher professional development and the teachers themselves, because they, armed with the apps, the tools, the games, as well as the policy statements that are meant for foundation phase literacies, the teachers were able to then select, a program of learning for their kids that set them on a path to move from stage 1 to level 4. And we then looking at, we had control schools, and the kids that performed in the project schools outperformed those control schools.
Jeez.
And it was really phenomenal.
Wow, Omashni, I really wish we had more time because this conversation is interesting. And I mean, it really, with the work you've been doing, prepares our youngest of children to be able to go through their school careers in better equipped and better able to handle the workload. So I hope in the future we'll continue to have this discussion with you and talk about your findings as well.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Omashni Naidu, the operations manager at SchoolNet, who says the answer to eradicating the dire reading crisis in the education system is the introduction and integration of technology in the classroom. Time to take a quick break.